Good afternoon, and thank you for coming to the Keynote Speaker event for Business Week 2013. I'm Christina Bender, the Business Week President. We're very happy to have Stuart Schuette with us today. We're looking forward to having him share his experiences and insights with us. Please remember to join us for the College of Business Alumni Network reception in the old main room right across from us over here following this afternoon's presentation. The reception provides a chance to meet with the keynote speaker and other professionals. I'd also like to encourage my fellow students to get involved in the Business Week team as a team member. Planning for Business Week 2014 will start very soon, and meetings will be held throughout the upcoming year to start planning and implementing and marketing next spring's events. There are a lot of opportunities available, and it's a great learning experience. Information on getting involved can be found on our Business Week website or in the College of Business Dean's office. I would now like to introduce the College of Business Dean, Dr. Scott Johnson.
Thanks, Christina. It's nice to see so many of you here for this special event that we do every year for Business Week. I'd like to recognize Christina Bender, of course, President of Business Week, Miriam Chape, Vice President, and Chris Dahl, who's the Logistics Director. And all the other Business Week students who have worked so hard to make this event happen and to make the whole week happen. I'd like to also encourage students to be involved, as Christina said. The planning actually for next year starts right away, so if you're interested in being on the Business Week team, please see Christina or one of the Business Week team members. This is the third year of Business Week mentor program, which pairs upperclassmen students with typically freshman students, and the program helps to keep these freshman students engaged in Business Week activities and get them oriented to the College of Business. Would the 2014 mentors and mentees in the audience please stand now to be recognized? Thank you very much. Events like Business Week help us accomplish our mission, which is to educate students to be skilled and ethical business professionals. However, we can only accomplish this through the help of strong partnerships. The college benefits greatly from these partnerships with local corporations and a host of other business professionals, many of whom are ISU alumni. We are especially grateful for the wisdom and experience that these business professionals bring to our college advisory council and our departmental advisory councils. Their knowledge and input helps keep the college really tailoring its courses to be cutting edge in the business world. We are also, of course, very grateful to Stuart Schuette for taking the time to speak with us today, and he'll join us shortly. I would now like to recognize our external partners and thank them for the generous support of Business Week activities. U.S. Foods, State Farm Insurance, Country Financial, Heritage Enterprises, AFNE Inc., Archer Daniels Midland Company, Commerce Bank, Dean Foods, Andy Drendel, Farnsworth Group, Growmark, IBM, J.C. Penney, Kensington Realty Advisors, Travelers Companies Foundation, Widmer Interiors, and Zios Global Ventures LLC. And now it is my pleasure to introduce the Provost at Illinois State University, Dr. Sherry Everts.
Thank you, Scott. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be a part of the College of Business Annual Business Week activities. I applaud the College of Business Week student planning team for putting together a wonderful series of events. It is also my pleasure this afternoon to introduce our featured speaker for today, Illinois State alumnus Stuart Schuette. As Chief Operating Officer of U.S. Foods, Mr. Schuette oversees the operational and administrative functions of more than 70 divisions for one of America's leading food service distributors to restaurants, healthcare and hospitality facilities, government operations, and educational institutions. Based in Rosemont, Illinois, U.S. Foods employs approximately 25,000 associates in more than 60 locations. A 1986 Illinois State graduate with a degree in accounting and business administration, he has held a variety of executive positions with U.S. Foods. During his 20-year career with U.S. Foods, he has served as region president, zone president, division vice president in finance, manager in financial operations, and manager in planning. Prior to joining U.S. Foods, Mr. Schuette was an executive at Martin Brower, a subsidiary of Reyes Holdings, LLC. He was also senior financial analyst at Heller Financial and began his career in the small business division of Arthur Andersen in Chicago. In addition to his leadership role with U.S. Foods, he also serves on the board of directors of the Chicago Urban League. Please join me in welcoming Stuart Schuette.
So good afternoon, Illinois State. Hope everyone's, I'm excited to be here today. This is 27 years ago that I walked across the stage to receive my degree, and it's hard to believe it's gone as fast as it has, and I'm now back up here in front of all of you. Can you turn the lights up here for a minute in the audience? I want to get a little sense of the audience for a minute if I could. Okay, so how many students here are from different colleges? Finance. Finance guys? Okay. How about the College of Marketing? How many marketers? We've got a lot of marketing people, okay? Accounting folks, from my alma mater, okay? We've got a number of accounting folks. Office administration, HR, and so forth. Okay, any graduate students? Got a few graduate students here as well. Okay. Well, today's, when Norris Porter asked me to speak here, and we were working through the topic for the speech, we thought that we could, this is not working. We came up with the topic of creating differentiation in a competitive world. Now, transformation in business is a big word. If you're in graduate school, it's something that we talk about a lot, about how companies transform themselves, but there's really a couple of things that I'd like to accomplish with this group today. I want you to think a little bit about your own personal career journey that you're about to embark upon. And so let's take this topic and turn it a little bit and make it about your career. Because creating differentiation in a competitive world is not only about what a business does to succeed in a highly competitive global market, but it's also what each of us has to do on a routine basis to make sure that we're relevant in the business community and that we're able to go after and achieve the dreams that we have for ourselves and we aspire to when we depart college and go into the work world. I bet if I asked every one of you individually, you would tell me about a dream that you have for your career and where you'd like to be 20 years from now. If you'd asked me when I walked across the stage 27 years ago what I wanted to do, I'd have probably told you I wanted to be a CFO in a company at some point in time. And that was the journey that I was going to embark upon. But that changes because people's careers change and it becomes what you make of it. So when I walk through this presentation today, think in terms of yourself individually, your own personal career, your own personal journey. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about mine. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the industry in which I happen to choose to work in, a little bit about our company that I work for. We are embarking upon a transformation. We're trying to create a different company, a differentiated company in a very competitive marketplace, and I'll show you some of that. But most importantly, if at the end of this presentation you walk away thinking a little bit differently about how you position yourself for your career and how you leverage your experience here at the university, I think we will have had a success, okay? So are we on for that? They all nodded yes? Okay, so here we go. A little bit about my personal journey. Provost told you a little bit about this, but I arrived on campus in 1982. But I chose Illinois State University for a very different reason. I was actually in a business organization in high school called the Future Business Leaders of America, and my teacher, that was our faculty advisor, stopped at the university and said, you know, I went to school here, I'd like you to see where I went to school. We walked around the campus, it was summertime, and there were two individuals out playing Frisbee in the middle of the quad. One individual saw me walking, now I'm a high school junior, saw me walking across the quad, walked up to me, stopped playing Frisbee and said, are you thinking about going to school here? I said, well, this is my high school business teacher, and he's actually just showing me around campus because he went to school here, and I'm contemplating it. The guy stopped me and said, listen, if you decide to go to school at Illinois State University, you're going to love it. It will be a great experience for you, and you should really consider it. This is a fun place to be, and you'll learn a lot. I was so struck by a student that would take the time to walk up to me in a campus environment to encourage me to go to school at this university that it put me over the top, and I decided to come to Illinois State. So in the fall of 1982, I show up here thinking I want to be a stockbroker, going to go be a finance major, and I'm in Dunbarton. Now, how many folks know where Dunbarton was? There's a big, big new building on top of where I went to school and stayed in the dorm. And I was around a number of students that were highly involved in campus. They were in this organization called the Student Accounting Society, and they highly encouraged me to come to some of the events and get involved. And as a result of that involvement, I decided to change my major. I went and became an accounting major at that time. And I will tell you to this day that I am incredibly grateful for the experiences that this university provided me, because I was able to be involved in the Accounting Society, lead some different events like the folks here that are running Business Week, but the personal interaction with the professors, to learn from them, the fact that they took interest in me as an individual, helped set the trajectory for me and my career for the next 20 years. I believe that, I know that to be true. So I will always be incredibly grateful to this university and to the faculty that are here for what they did and what they invested in me, because it was because of them that I was able to get out to a good start and begin my career. Now, each one of you will have opportunities as you're sitting in your college classrooms and you get the opportunity to get involved. Remember, this is about being differentiated in a competitive marketplace. The marketplace that you will enter is very similar to the marketplace that I was in 1982 when I joined the university. Unemployment was high, jobs were scarce, and you really had to think in terms of how do I make myself different so I can compete for those jobs in the future. And you know what? You'll be well prepared when you leave this university to go and compete with anybody across the business community. I entered Arthur Andersen in the small business division, and it started to ignite a passion for running a business, and that's ultimately when I decided that down the road I wanted to run a company and move into general management. And then the subsequent career, I ultimately ended up at Kraft Foods for a period of time. Now, here's a little interesting fact about the careers, and you talk about how change occurs in one's life. Arthur Andersen, at the time I went to work there, was the largest accounting and financial services organization in the world. It had over 85,000 associates involved in it. It doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. Heller Financial was a company that was an incredible banking institution. It got itself into trouble and was acquired by the Fuji Bank about 6 or 8 months before I joined it. And I actually joined Heller because an Illinois State alumni who I went to school with called me. She said, Stuart, you should come to work at Heller. I've been here, I love the place, you love the place, and they have plenty of job opportunities. And one of the things that they do is they move you around. They give you different job experiences because there's so much going on in this company because it was nearly bankrupt, that if you can do work, they're going to give you opportunity. That's exactly what happened. It was an opportunity to build a career and do things differently. So always think in terms of your career about not necessarily maybe the most stable companies to always go into, but where you're going to get, particularly when you're your age, where can I get the most experience quickly? That's going to give me a nice lift in my career, and with that will become greater success and more opportunities down the road, because that's really what we look for when we hire people, is that diversity of experience and those challenges that people have risen to over the course of their career. And then I left Heller and joined the Kraft Food Company, and Kraft had recently been acquired by Philip Morris. And so during that time, they were starting all over with their finance organization, and I was one of the first new folks that they hired in. So once again, going to where there's a challenge of just complete chaos as we were setting some of the stuff up. It's a great place to go, and think of that in your career. And then I've been in the food service business, and I'll tell you a little bit about that for the last 20 years. But the biggest learning I would share with you as a graduate is you must continue to change to be relevant. 20 years from now, and I'll show you a few things that have changed in my lifetime, which doesn't seem like it was that long ago, it will be even faster for all of you in this room. Let's talk about a few of those things. Now, when I first entered the workforce, we had this thing called the IBM XT. You guys know what that is? It's a big computer. It has big floppy disks that you put in, and it had a green screen. Now, I don't think I'm that old of a guy, but I'll tell you, that is a relic of the industrial age. You hit the enter button, it would sit there for a minute, it would calculate a spreadsheet, and then give you an answer. You could actually watch it through its calculation, okay? And then when we decided we wanted to go out to a client, we had something that looked like a sewing machine. And we'd haul that sewing machine out, open it up, and look at another green screen in there. And that was a portable computer. It was amazing. You could actually carry this computer from your office to a client location. Who would have thought of it, right? Pager and voicemail. We had, for the first time, the ability to be connected in with our clients via a pager and voicemail system. Now we have the iPhone 5, right? And you've got everything, the internet at your fingertips. Arthur Anderson, as I mentioned earlier, is gone. We have the big four. If you're an accounting person, that's a big change. Here's one that I didn't know whether you knew about. Global positioning system, GPS-enabled technology. Back in 1986, 1990, it was illegal. If you got found with a GPS tool, you were marched off to jail. The only people that could have GPS were the military. It was a military tool. They used it for guidance of missiles. Period. Full stop. Completely illegal. Now it's everywhere. Bill Clinton opened up the ability for commercial purposes to use satellites for GPS. Now, how could we live without it? I mean, I couldn't get from point A to point B now without my navigation system if I tried. I don't know what a map looks like anymore. GPS is the way to go. And then lastly, a little surprising statistic is there's 75 more million people in the U.S. Marketplace than there were back when I graduated. Now when you're in the food business, that's a pretty healthy change because people have to eat. And when people eat, then that allows us to build our business. Okay, so I put this chart up here. Everybody familiar with the food service industry? So, how many of you have ever worked in a restaurant? Okay. Quite a few. I know that there's 950 employees associated with the cafeteria operations here on campus. Your executive chef used to work for our company, and in 2007 came over here and worked for the university. So I got a nice tour of the facility today, and that is essentially the core customer of our organization. That's the food service business. Now, here's some interesting facts about the food service business. Between restaurants, hospitals, hotels, any place that someone goes and eats away from home, that's part of the food service industry. And if you start thinking in terms of how big that is, a little known fact, that it's the second largest employer in the U.S. economy next to the federal government. It's that big of an industry. The part that we participate in is we distribute food to those institutions. It's a $200 billion marketplace in the U.S. We're a $21 billion company, so we only have 10% of the share. Our largest competitor is a $40 billion company. They've got 20% of the share. So we have a lot of opportunity to grow. The internet Interestingly enough, technology is changing the way that we conduct business. And I'll talk to you in a few minutes about what we're doing relative to e-commerce, but it's a big thing for us, and it's a big change for our industry. This last piece here, demographics and the customer and how that's changing, is pretty interesting. The average age of a chef today in a restaurant operation is in their early 30s. They grew up in an era where technology was heart and soul of what they did. And they're looking for an experience with technology as they communicate and interact with an organization. Very differently than folks that are in the 50-plus generation. So for us to create competitive advantage, we have to take those demographic shifts into mind as we build our business for the future. Something else of interest is the folks in this room, your generation, you will define what food is consumed in America over the next 15 years. And I can tell you that things that you like are ethnic foods. You like things that are different. You like things that are sustainable. You like food that is, you're a little fickle in your choices, and you have selected to have diversity of the food experience. But as a result of that, you're making our industry better, because we have to raise the game on the types of foods that we supply into the restaurants, because they have to raise the game because that's what you're asking for. Here's something else. You go out to eat more frequently than your predecessors did. As a result, as you age and you go out and get your first job and your second job, and you start to acquire wealth, you will spend more money in the restaurant industry than any of your predecessors will have. As a result, we look at that as a very favorable demographic shift for us, as long as we're thinking in terms of what it is that you will want 10 years out. We have to think forward to what the world will look like 10 years from now, make sure that we're meeting that experience for all of you, because you will define the future of the food service industry, the folks right here in this room. So I mentioned earlier about the consolidation that occurs, and I will tell you, all of you at some point in time will go to work in a company, and more than likely you will experience your company being bought out or your company buying another business and so forth. This happens to be a map of my company. Its history goes all the way back to 1853 to the Monarch Foods Company. We, in fact, bought business after business. And you look on the far left-hand side, it says Kraft Food Service. That was the company that I went to work for. And it got consolidated and rolled into this U.S. Foods Company. And we are owned by two of the largest private equity firms in the country, KKR and CD&R. A privately held company. We're the largest privately held company in the state of Illinois. But along the lines, these are some of the best and well-known in the food service industry companies. So we're an amalgam, we're a roll-up, as we call it, of all of these different organizations. So this is the third company that I've worked for. That's also a roll-up that's been acquired and been acquired. So the story I'm trying to tell you here is the world is starting to move at a faster and faster pace, and you will deal with these things as well. Think in terms of how you keep yourself competitive, that if your company gets bought, what are the skills that you bring? How are you differentiating yourself against the person that's down the hall or the person in the other company to ensure that you get that next nod and that next job? We're a national company. Every major metropolitan area in America where food is served, we are there. And I will tell you, as the cities continue to grow, the 1% population growth that gets fueled every year, that's good for our business. That means more people that ultimately eat at a restaurant, which drives our volume, which drives our top line, which drives our business. But we simply provide a mixing center activity. Now, we take manufacturers on one side, we buy the product from them, we put it into our warehouse operation, and then we ship it and ship it out to healthcare institutions, colleges and universities, restaurants, bars and grills, and so forth, all across America. We provide that mixing center opportunity in the middle. Now, how many of you think that that is something that can be replicated fairly easily? Buying from a manufacturer, putting it in a warehouse, shipping it out to a customer. Anybody? fairly replicatable. It's capital intensive, but you can replicate it, right? That's what we call becoming a commodity business. And if it's all about what it is that, you know, I buy craft Catalina from you or I can buy it from Bob down the street, it becomes about price, right? I want the cheapest price. That's the risk in a business that becomes commoditized. A little bit about the demographics of the industry. Our industry is a fairly new industry. It started in 1969 in Houston, Texas, with a guy named Johnny Bob, who was the founder of a company called Cisco, which is our largest competitor. It was the first time that people actually started aggregating their purchases. And you can see this arrow that goes up, like it seems like it shoots to the moon, and then it kind of goes flat. That, in fact, is the restaurant industry, food away from home, and the growth of the industry. Anybody know what happened in 2009? The Great Recession? Less discretionary cash. Our business is fueled by discretionary income. When money is available in the economy and people go and spend it at a restaurant, it's good for our business. It sort of went flat over the course of 2008, 2009, 2010. On the right-hand side is the demographic trend. And if you notice, as I referred to earlier, 45 to 60, where the wealth in America is, they're spending the most at the restaurants. But I will tell you, in the less than 25-year-old category, while that may be declining, the actual meal consumption is actually higher there than it is in the older groups, and that will continue to build. It's just where they spend their money is at a lower ticket price in a restaurant. So these are two particular challenges that we have as we look forward, as we try to map out our business. Now here's another challenge that we have in the industry right now. This is the number of meals eaten away from home per capita, per person, in America for the last 30 years. You can see it rose and rose and rose, and the highest year for meals eaten away from home was the year 2000. Remember 2001, 9/11 happened? And then we had the economic recession, 2009, all putting pressure on our business. But something else, people look at that and they say, well, that's all that happened there. But there really is something else that's really fundamentally that has changed in our industry over the course of this period of time, and that is the number of women entering the workforce actually reached a peak in 2000. And then what's happened subsequent to that over the last 10 years is one of the two incomes stays home with the kids. And so as a result, it's flattened the median income out, which means there's been less discretionary income over the last decade, and that discretionary income fuels our business. Now, a friend of mine once said that, you know, he looked at this chart, and he said, well, you know, I just got to tell you something, women are smarter than men. I said, really? He said, women are smarter than men because it didn't take them that long to figure out that work sucks. And they started staying home and saying, let the other person go do that. Reality is, it's a reflection of the economy, it's a reflection of folks staying at home. And so, when we look at these trends, and the part where we're a commodity, we decided that we needed to transform ourselves. Now, take a pause for a minute and think about your own self. You've got your career, you've got your degree, your finance, your marketing, your accounting, your office administration, whatever your degree happens to be. And it's a highly competitive world. What do I need to do to transform myself as I move through my career, or how do I transform myself right now so that I can be successful when I head out to our careers? This here, a thorough or dramatic change in substance or appearance is the absolute definition of transformation. And when we sought out to do a change in our business, the first place that we went to was to talk to our customers. Say, are we on the right track here? What are our customers saying about us? What are our customers saying about our competition? What are the attributes around this spider chart that would tell us how we're performing? And how do we perform against our competition? And if you notice, they directly overlay, which means that there's not a lot of difference. And if there's not a lot of difference, it's all about price. If it's all about price, the person with scale wins, and anybody can win on price on any day. If you've ever sold, you know how that feels. It's tough. That makes for a very difficult business. we wanted to transform ourselves so that our customers could only get certain things from us, and they would view us differently than any other competitor in the marketplace. Now, for a minute, think about yourself and putting the attributes around that circle that represent your skills, what your employer would be looking for, and how you rate differently than the other person that may be looking for that same job. And if you do that personal assessment, you think about those points that you can start to leverage as you start to build your career, regardless of where your career will take you. We also decided that it was time to change our appearance. On your left, you will see our old logo. On our right, you'll see the new logo. We did a bunch of customer research that said, what do you think about the name of the company, U.S. Food Service? They said, well, that's an industry, it's not a company. What do you think of the logo? They said, it looks like it's about 1980. You guys change anything? So we brought in a team of experts in marketing, and they helped us develop our new logo. And as things would have it, we were sitting around a table, and at about 10:30 at night, some of the guys came back into our room and said, we've just had an inspiring moment. We've got your tagline. Do say more. I said, well, we had a couple of beers, sat back and thought about it, and we came up with keeping kitchens cooking across America. Like, that is phenomenal. That is what we do as a company. We're a restaurant service and provider, and we keep kitchens cooking across America. The other thing that we decided to do is when we looked around at all our competitors, you see their trucks roll by, and they're in the same space as us, and if you knew you were in the industry, you knew what they stood for. But we wanted to make our business about, if anybody saw our logo rolling around up and down the roads, that they would understand that we were in the restaurant business. That's what we do. We're U.S. Foods, keeping kitchens cooking across America. And if you look at our truck, we put on the back of the vehicle our customer, who are chefs around America. And that's what is rolling around on our vehicles as we redid them. And there is no doubt when you see them. And now I will tell you that hopefully you'll see them everywhere you look now that you've got familiarity with them. We have the second largest fleet in the country. You will know that we're in the restaurant business, and the chef is core to what we do and who we serve on a day in and day out basis. But this has been a really big launch point for our company and for our customers. And then we decided we wanted to take it a step further. Okay, so you got a nice logo. You've defined yourself as being in the restaurant business. People look at you and say, you're a chef-driven company.